The way it was explained is like these little white lies. So if you say to anybody, you make these little white lies up in your head, most people would agree it's like a softer way of recognizing, yeah, we might embellish some things, where if you just outright call somebody a liar, they're going to be like, I'm not a liar, because they wouldn't consider these little things, embellishments or stories, lies. An example of that would be, which is very common, or was very common in their lives and many people's lives at that time. And when I look at it, it's such a funny thing that humans do. So there she is in the room and asked God, and she was determined. She just, on a level, knew that was the answer. Didn't know the how, didn't know. She just thought, okay. And that's when she got introduced to energy work shortly thereafter, and given a book to read on healing with the hands. And it was given to her by the kinesiologist doctor, and he said, you need to read this. And at that point, she then realized that kinesiology and moving energy there was a science to it, and it had a lot more to do with science and practicality and understanding the body than it did to some outside source, etherically energy, and that wasn't of God. So that supported her a lot to be able to try to learn the practice. Up until that point, she had no idea that this was actual practice. She had just assumed that people just had some weird gift given to them by God. And that was great when she realized something that she could learn. So she started to read the book and do the work, and then got introduced shortly thereafter through the kinesiologist, another lady who was teaching a method that went a little bit faster. And then the word quantum mechanics came up, and understanding the breakdown of energy and how energy works in the body. And this is one of the things that the book said to her, which was very helpful to her brain. And wherever you are in your journey, you have the introduction to energy, or what is energy and movement of energy. There's this practical mind that we have in our belief systems when we're not ready to open up too much to maybe there's more to our beliefs. She read that, imagine that there's a goldfish in a bowl swimming in water. And imagine that you could talk to the goldfish, and you could say, hey, Mr. Goldfish, what's it like swimming in water, like breathing in water? And the goldfish would reply back to you, water? What is water? And the book went on to describe that is how we experience ourselves with energy, that energy is everywhere. And even though you can't see it, you're breathing in oxygen and exhaling, and you can't see it, but that's what you're doing. And we're told this. But like the fish, if you don't know that there's energy called water, and you're just in it, swimming in it, you could ask the fish, but somebody else is observing this fish. And it was so fascinating. It started to key in some things that she was learning about energy and the quantum mechanics, meaning you can move things and how things get stored in the body, and you can learn techniques to push things out of the body that get stored in there. This experience for her helped her to break down the mechanics of energy, and that there was a method to it. And because of her baby was growing and still needed support, was now 1.5 years old, and still having a lot of extreme pain in the body, extreme behavior, like she was either highly active and very electrical by nature, touching everything, almost like a child would be present with seizures, would have tantrums, later finding out they were a type of seizure. So the doctors really didn't know what to do, but wanted to give the baby medicine, which that was not what she wanted to do because of the experience with synthetic medicine. That doesn't always help. So there was a lot of research done into that. So it just seemed that this was a path and an avenue that could support her baby. And with the tools that she learned, it started to soothe at some level the baby. And she had like tools in her tool belt. And in doing that, she started to get certified in a quantum mechanics method. Now, the mind of her still held on to this deep belief that God was the ultimate healer through his son, Jesus Christ. And she was very sure inside of herself that as she was doing this work, she wanted to make sure that it wasn't of the devil. Because in her upbringing in the church, anything outside of the priesthood was viewed as the devil's work. So anything like tarot cards, psychics, anybody that did anything that wasn't through the priesthood, wasn't through God, and wasn't through your own teachings, you were being duped, and you had to be very careful. Because of the desperation of wanting to hear her child, and because of her reading that there was a science behind this, it allowed her to merge a little bit of her belief of God with the idea this is also energy, and maybe energy was just another name for, or was the mechanics of how prayer worked and how healing worked from God, and really changing whenever she heard energy and intention work, similar to prayer. So this helped her continue in the quantum mechanic lessons, becoming certified, and then she could work on her child, and she could work on her family, and she could work on other people. And people started coming to her for working out all kinds of things, whether it was physical. She already was nutritional micro she did certified microbiology for analyzing blood, so she had a background scientifically in how the body can heal itself through alkalining the body and doing all of these things. So she had that background, and that this was a missing piece. Like, you can do all the physical stuff for your body and purge it, but how do you do that for a baby? Like, the baby's new. You couldn't just put a baby on a detox program. From her mindset, it's just a new baby, and not even the concept that there could be toxins in the baby and all of this stuff, which didn't come in till a later understanding. So this energy work was a helpful tool, because she had seen this practice done before with the South African lady, and seen the practice done with her kinesiology doctor, who actually was a member of the church as well. But when she started doing this quantum mechanics practice, it used a method of algorithms and template for using fractals that were able to take each word in the physical body, mental body, emotional body, psychological body, spiritual body, esoteric body, karmic, and put the right codes in, and so it would collapse and go to the 0 point, and then you would have the healing. So it was really the breakdown of the mechanics, and you didn't have to be a spiritualist, or you could be left-brained or right-brained, and this was a practice that was very specific on how you did it. So that allowed her mind and her belief to justify that she wasn't going against her religion, because this was very important to her that she make it to the celestial kingdom, and through her beliefs that she would never be deceived by the devil, and that she was doing God's work. She started to practice with people because she wanted to help people ultimately. Her belief was she really wanted to help people suffering, and felt very frustrated when people suffered and she didn't know how to help them. So there became a big part of her through her experience with her baby, that she could learn to help people. So if they were suffering, she would have a method or a tool that could help them. Especially, she had a lot of friends that weren't Mormons, especially if they weren't Mormon and they didn't have the belief of Jesus Christ or wanted anything to do with religion. This sort of justified how she could help many people, right? Not just with the belief of the priesthood. So it was a constant moral battle with inside of her mind if she was always doing the right. It was a constant battle, right or wrong. Is this right or wrong? And as she was doing the practice, she was working on herself and she was seeing results in herself and her family. And she could see when she actually did the work with her child, the child could feel the process. So whenever she used her hands to go towards the baby, even before she got there, the baby could feel it. It could just feel, and this baby was just like connected to her because she was the only one that the baby would actually work with. She would just scream for everybody else and be in pain. So really forced her to be the 24/7 everything to this baby, as well as all the other children, as well as they grew a garden. Everything was from scratch. They baked her own bread, full on Mormon housewife, but also because of health and wellness, living as much as a low toxin life as possible so everybody would be healthy and well. There was a lot that she had put on her plate and took responsibility for. And this was something else she desired, is to help others not suffer and also bring people to God and Jesus and be a righteous example of Jesus Christ and his work. And that was her belief. When she was getting results with people, she would do the practice and work one-on-one with people, and they would come. And then something started to occur when she was working with people. She would ask them certain questions so that she could clear any energy through the practice. Was very helpful because it would come up with the word for her. And she started to notice that when they would answer, she heard the answer before they answered, or she thought she knew the truth, like she intuitively knew the truth. However, when they answered, they would give her only part truth, like they would leave out something or they would add something, and she would re-ask the question because she felt like the person was lying. But she wouldn't tell them that they were lying. She just was surprised, oh, that's not the answer. So she would re-ask the answer, and some of the people would come out and give okay, finally what she saw at the beginning. It makes them take them 5 or 6 times to pull it out of them because they weren't looking at it the way that they needed to, or they would just immediately just create a lie in their mind and spew it out, which wasn't truth. And she became aware that why would they be lying? And then some people that she was close to would work with her and they would just outright lie, and they were never going to tell the truth, even though she could see this was the root. She would clear it anyway, but it became very fascinating. And then when she wasn't working with people, she became aware that this also was just happening in general with people, that she realized that, are these people lying? Like, why, when I ask a question, I'm not getting the full truth back, almost as if she could read their mind and know it was a lie. But because of her belief, she just couldn't believe that, like, why would she be knowing or seeing these things? Like, maybe she's making it up, she thought. Maybe she's not really, maybe she's just making it up that they're lying. And so she started over a 6-month period really testing it, right? Like a game. Okay, I'm going to ask this question, and here's the truth of it. And then they would say something, and then she could ask another question, and then they would pull out, and it would be bang on. So she recognized, and that wouldn't just happen when working with people, it would just happen in general. And she thought that was really fascinating. And she, after a while, had a thought that if these people are lying to themselves, like they were little white lies, they weren't full out like a complete lie, they were just fabricated lies added in. And because she understood now a little bit about the mind and how it works, like subconscious, unconscious, conscious mind, she had a thought that her mind may be the same. And she asked herself to herself if she did this, what she observed others doing. So she started to observe herself in the way that she spoke. And it was almost immediate where she caught herself in a lie. A friend had asked her to recap a story. It was a really good friend, and they were just having casual conversation. And she told her friend, "Oh, yeah, this is what happened." And she was a very animated person. So she just was sharing the story. And during the story, she embellished just one sentence in there where she added to the story of something that did not happen. She thought it would be a good addition. It's very fast that she did this. She thought, yeah, then I said this, which is something she wanted to say but didn't really say it. It just was an addition. And she finished the story. The other person had no clue that she added that part into the story that did not happen. And then she realized, wow, I just did it. Now, her starting point for not wanting to do that was from the belief that she cannot be a liar because this would keep her out of the celestial kingdom. So it was very important that she start to correct or catch herself if she was going to lie and work really hard to be super truthful, even in these little things. So that was the first way that she decided that she should correct herself, and because she didn't want to disappoint God and that she didn't want to be a liar, and it probably was important. And then it started being effective for her. She just started really trying to be better. And it was time for her to share with her partner because he was part of this journey, also studying quantum mechanics. He was getting the teachings as well. So they had a very good communication and a type of friendship that worked really well, and agreements in their marriage that they had gone through a lot together in taking all the courses to do health and wellness, to clear his body of dis-ease and terminal anything. And they had somewhat of a connection. And she could see that also with her partner and even her children, that they would do the same. So one day she thought that she should share this, what she'd been experiencing. It might have been a year, might have been 6 months, but she had confirmed that people do this, and she had confirmed also that she had done it. And so she wanted to share this. So she said, "Hey, this has been happening to me. I feel like I could read people's thoughts. I don't know why, but it sounds so clear, and I can tell when people are lying." And she explained everything. And he said, "Wow, do I lie?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, you're the worst." And they had a good laugh because the way it was explained is like these little white lies. So if you say to anybody, you make these little white lies up in your head, most people would agree it's like a softer way of recognizing, yeah, we might embellish some things, where if you just outright call somebody a liar, they're going to be like, "I'm not a liar," because they wouldn't consider these little things, embellishments or stories, lies. An example of that would be, which is very common or was very common in their lives and many people's lives at that time. And when I look at it, it's such a funny thing that humans do and it's lying if you're going to be late. Something simple as, okay, we're going to be late for this event. Let's just tell the people this and fabricate something. And why would you do that? If you're late and you didn't get out of bed in time, or you left too late, or you were disorganized, why wouldn't you just say that, as opposed to like making up, "Oh, my child was sick," or blaming it somewhere? And this is what humans were doing. And this is what they had done unconsciously until it was consciously brought up that this is something that they didn't need to do. And so she started practicing, even just in that one point, like if they were going to be late, we just got to tell the truth why we're late. So this was the first step. And this started to happen around 2010, the year of 2010, with all the studies and the courses and the practicums, and the achievement of some successes as far as the child, and also the ability that God had given this gift of healing with the hands and moving energy through the hands. And it was just the way God was. And she would go back to the scriptures and justify, yes, this is a gift of healing. I'm not doing anything wrong. And yes, she was using some fractal artwork and these cards. They weren't tarot related, but people in her church, even though it worked, they were also fearful of this concept. She was using these kind of modalities, and was it crossing some kind of line? And that started to trickle in, and a lot more questions started to arise. They had some friends that came and started. One of the husbands was questioning the story about the Mormon church and bringing it to her attention, and she was very upset, didn't want to hear any of that, because how can you talk bad about the history of the church and how it came to be and the prophets? And this man started saying the prophets, it's all false and you got to look at this. And she refused. She absolutely refused. She was not going to talk about anything around her belief systems, because she believed fully all of it, all the doctrine, and that was it. Even though she was working in energy, she just decided God wanted her to do this, so she wasn't doing anything wrong. However, she would always turn to the scriptures to really make sure, whether it was the Book of Mormon or the doctrine in there or the Bible. And then she started to see some contradictions. And those contradictions made her question herself if she was doing wrong or right. And when you start doing energy work, you meet all kinds of people that had been doing it for a lot longer than she had, or had no religious beliefs. And by nature, she was a non-judgmental, that she would think that if people had their beliefs, she was curious as to what they believed and why. And she was open to hearing them and not judging them for their beliefs, still believing though she had the ultimate truth. So there was a self-righteous part in there, like you curious about other people's things, but you carry a self-righteous point that they have part of the truth and I have the fullness of the truth. That was her sort of psyche, quiet thing that she never shared with anybody. And in the questioning, she was gifted an audio series. And this audio series talked about how ask and you shall receive. And it brought in the concept of the law of attraction and the secret and energy and everything that you ask for, like your wish is your command. You could just ask for things and get it. And there was no mention of ask God himself through the Mormon church. It was like, this gift is for all of us because it's the laws of the universe. And there was these audios that was spoken at a seminar that put all of these together. And that was 2011. And that started to open up her mind a little bit more and expand a little bit more, which made her really start to question her own voices in her head and recognize that she actually had a voice in her head. And the voice in her head was a voice that was with her all the time. And the voice that had spoken to her in the bedroom that day was God's voice. And those voices to her were distinct when she recognized, who's the voice in my head? I hear a voice in my head. What is that voice?